Howdy, everybody! You are watching the unfortunate consecutive successor to our Cocaine Bear review and our discovery that sometimes movies are good. This video is about a film that came out literally maybe 2 years ago, so this is going to be a really high success count for our channel.
Striking while the iron's hot.
Striking while the iron is falling deep down, dark into the ocean. We're going to be talking. Go on. Tell me,
I was
bastard.
just going to say, striking while the iron's already in the Mariana Trench.
Mariana and her diamondic trenches, as he loved to call it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the sheer chaos of that introductory passage. It's a lot like the movie we're going to discuss, Dragon Ball Superhero. I always wish we had a musical cue that I could dramatically play over some of my favorite shots from the film then to make this all feel like a very serious H-Bomber Guy-esque production. But we are two guys.
We are two guys.
Just two men.
Two guys.
We don't even have the three necessary guys to make Hollow Knight. We're two guys. Not every Melburnian's good at.
I can say that through my own game development course, I didn't learn how to make Hollow Knight. Anyway. We have a bit of a flowchart like list of things we want to get through. It's all very synergistic and productivity laden.
Matthew Segway last name. I'll get started off in the flowchart if you'll permit me.
Absolutely.
Got a lot of enthusiasm for talking about all this, really. My name is June Powers. Like you, I don't know quite how, but I did have a poster of the cast of Dragon Ball Z in my childhood bedroom. And I was obsessed. There was a guy who had an eye in his forehead. Sometimes there were men who had sharp, big yellow hair, or sometimes it was just black and normal. And there was a horrifying green man. We're going to be spending a lot of time talking about the horrifying green man today. Me and Matthew both have a lot of feelings about him. I've seen entirely too much Dragon Ball content. I don't think I'm going to stop seeing too much Dragon Ball content. It's been a minute since I was in there in any real severity. I got pushed away by Dragon Ball Super being bad. Siren sound plays. Luckily, before Super, there was Dragon Ball GT, which was also bad. So, that's something.
Me, myself, hi, Matthew Casa here. I got into Dragon Ball in a very uncouth and unorthodox way. You see, I saw June playing Kakarot and I was like, this looks cool. And June was like, yeah, it goes through the story of Dragon Ball Z. Of course, he said Z.
I said Z.
Yeah,
I have some goddamn class on my name. Don't listen to him.
He said Z. And I was like, would it be okay to experience it through the game? And Jim was like, you know what? I think it might. And so I experienced the entirety of my knowledge of Dragon Ball through the game Kakarot. Please wait till the end of the video before you put my head on a stick.
But I'll stand up for him. Dragon Ball Kakarot is a good goddamn video game. That's right, I'm standing up for Kakarot, not Matthew.
I really, really liked Kakarot. It let me indulge in this world and feel the fights to such an incredibly poignant way. The fights that were difficult were actually difficult. The fights that were piddly easy, like the umpteen Cybermen you have to clean up literally every day, they were shitty and easy. I played on hard difficulty. I got pretty good at doing the perfect dodges because, oh boy, some of those enemies do have hands. But yeah, I watched a brief bit of classic young Goku Dragon Ball when I was a little kid. I don't really remember much of that, but I thought I'd mention it for the video. I have not seen any of GT or Super.
I envy you. I envy the fresh-faced positive inclination that you're able to bring to Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk more on the point of, is Dragon Ball a thing worth loving? Right now, in fact. The next flowchart item is, what do we like about Dragon Ball? Matthew, you're fresher here. I want you to bring that youthful zest. Be like Teen Gohan screaming about how much he loved a bit of Cold Steel that died.
I love Gohan. I love Piccolo. I love their mentorship, their friendship, their just general connection. I really enjoy the fact that Piccolo can be this golden shining example of what happens when the right person is given the right chance. Somebody who once upon a time wanted to destroy the world was called by his followers the evil king, or was it Demon King? Whatever.
Demon King Piccolo, yes.
Demon King Piccolo. And through being given a chance and being allowed to exist and see the world for what it is, he's like, I'm gonna raise Goku's son for him. And then he did.
I would like to iterate, Vivi, my passion for Dragon Ball. The sun cuck of Piccolo and Gohan is some of the most bizarrely compelling, I once thought, authorial happy accidents I'd ever witnessed. It's so goddamn strange. Piccolo is the ultimate villain of Dragon Ball when it cared more about being a Journey to the West parody than it ultimately ended up being when it became a series of extended Frieza parodies eventually. And going from using your whole body to ramshackle destroy that Piccolo guy into breaking back into an angry egg of a man, and then going on to vaguely hang out with him enough to employ him to beat the shit out of your horrible brother who is doing a creepy abductive uncle gig. And then he goes, well, I worked pretty good with that guy I had a spat with 15 real-time years ago. I think from now on, I'm just going to be the coolest goddamn guy in the entire universe.
Hey kid, your real uncle sucks, so now you've got a green uncle. Don't blow it.
Piccolo blows a hole through Goku and Goku's brother both, and then, supremely does abduct Gohan and send him into the wilderness to get strong or die trying. This is a heartwarming story. It's actually cool and positive.
Yeah. And through this, Gohan learns to trust this scary guy who we'd only heard stories of how evil he is, and Piccolo learns to go, wow, this kindness stuff is alright. Maybe Goku was onto something.
They learn a lot about feelings. That's an integral core of, I think, Dragon Ball's success across the literal decades that it has been one of the biggest goddamn things in the world. That's not me hyperbolically stating. Dragon Ball's one of the biggest and best ever, because it's been a constant presence in my life that's treated me individually.
Yeah.
But Dragon Ball's a fully legitimate global success. It has latched onto that for actual decades, longer than I've definitely been alive. Taking a look at our YouTube statistic page, longer than you've been alive as well, 18 to 24.
I grew up in very suburban Australia. I spent a lot of times in some schools that were maybe not on the most affluent of areas, so there was a lot of dingy, ignorant people who had a lot of, I guess, racism within their hearts. Even those people who didn't like Asians as a general rule still thought Dragon Ball was the bee's knees.
May I say, I think they were correct.
About the Dragon Ball right.
About the Dragon Ball right. I like so many parts of Dragon Ball. I dislike so many parts of film YouTube where they go, movies are bad, and I dislike them, and we're going to focus in on the weaknesses of a product instead of accelerating the strengths of a product. The film Dragon Ball Superhero does literally everything I want a Dragon Ball product to do to such perfect exactitude. I'm pretty sure that I died yesterday and I'm imagining the dream in like that absolute final bit dopamine explosion the brain has before it lights out. And then maybe you go to heaven. I don't know. That's beyond the scope of our film review. Tell us what you think in the comments about the afterlife. Jeff, do you have anything else to say about your like of Dragon Ball, or is it time to traipse into the film?
I wanted to first off second the feelings. The feelings really matter. The feelings become physical manifestations of their power and energy, and people's power levels, sure, they can get unlocked or whatever, but it's really their feelings, their raw, I need to be better because people I care about are sacrificing for my own benefit. And that matters.
And it does matter. And very often the people who are being sacrificed on your dime to give you a chance to set things right, just get a little bit stronger, are also a freaky idiot. That's a really important integral core to Dragon Ball as well as me. The Z Fighters, as they are retroactively named, so that there's a thing to put on the toy box collection of the 8 of them that people like, which is of course Chiaotzu, Yamcha, Tien 5 more times.
I love
They're
how weird the guy.
Absolute rag shot. Go on.
Not just guys. I meant guys in the broader sense of they're all just weird little creatures. Like I love not Chaozu, Tien's
No one
whole
loves Chiaotzu.
nihilistic depression of I know now how much more I know now how much more I suck than Goku. I could never be as good as Goku. Or like Yamcha's, like, he got beat the fuck up by one of the weakest enemies in all of Dragon Ball Z and was like, well, I'm still showing up for all the matches.
I didn't hear no bell. Yamcha goes over and over.
Or the Mr. Satan just being at the wrong place at the wrong time and suddenly being the world's richest, like, mega hero. Like, there's a whole lot of very weird, freaky guys that are really quite fun.
And continually allowed into the community and uplifted through the time scale of Dragon Ball. From that moment where Goku didn't know what the hell a Kamehameha was, or a Kamehameha, to this point we are at now in the modern history of Dragon Ball, where Goku is technically faster than time, which is one of the bits that happens in Super, and is one of the less annoying, ridiculous things that happens in Super.
Well,
He
Vegeta
still has the same cast of friends. They've expanded, not regressed.
Yes, and I think it's very sweet. Once again, I'm going to bring up a Kakarot thing. In Kakarot, they have a thing called the relation chart for the 4 different sagas that you play through. The Attack of the Saiyans, the Frieza Force Fast, the Cell Saga, and the Majin Buu bouts. It's not actually called that. I tried to make it alliterative. Anyway,
I admired that.
Thank you.
Really.
The relation chart, it shows you just how many characters are involved and in what ways. And it is so sweet and nice to see at the very beginning the relation chart's so small, and by the end there are so many wonderful people just all on the side of, hey, we think Earth is a cool place. And not even just in the relation chart, but in the cutscenes, like when Super Boo goes and kills everyone on Kami's lookout. It's sad, definitely, but it's sad because you know and you recognize these people, and these are people that have mattered to the other people, and whatnot. There's like a big crowd of them, and they're all nice and friends and happy together.
And you've watched them have good haircuts and bad. Krillin, what the hell, man? I think that sounds like a tremendously good segue to the next point of our flowchart that I want to take off on because some of my personal experience. What happened in the movie to the lens of what we liked?
On the weird guy lens, and I think this segue is very apt because of the haircuts. There's this guy, he is a very low-level villain, like a tertiary level villain. His name is Carmine. He has a fucked up, like, 2-foot-long pompadour, and he has his car altered so it can fit his pompadour. And this is a joke that is brought through the lens of he literally gave away a stakeout operation he was doing because his car was so customized. Carmine also has a YouTube channel and also is one of those little persnickety people who needs to credit themselves for literally every little thing they do. So it's like, a Carmine production, written by Carmine, edited by Carmine, starring Carmine. For every little villainous PowerPoint he produces.
And they're all like absurdly stolen data points, surveillance cameras pointed at a family home to wonder, what are those guys up to? In that way that they must because of the secretiveness of the Z Fighters.
He also has no qualms about shooting a child.
He's a
like,
little bit Jack Horner about it.
Yeah.
Another one of those absurdly good films to emerge in the shadow of Spider-Verse, which I'm realizing increasingly is kind of a genre typing now.
Yeah.
Relatively stagnant film series that have been given this chance to be like absurdly animated and vivid and trimmed down to perfection in their new 3D CG mode.
Yeah. There is probably the most important new character is this guy, Dr. HEDO. He is the grandson of Dr. Gero, and he's a really big superhero fan. He,
Like us.
Yeah.
In both ways.
He gets involved with with the Red Ribbon Army, and they're like, we need you to take down the Z Fighters because they're a vanguard of alien invaders. And he's like, it's my chance to finally be a superhero. And so he creates these two, like, superhero androids called Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. They look like sharks.
Which is radical.
It is.
Dragon Ball speaks to the boyish truth of stuff being cool.
Yeah. And they each are like, one of them is, if you were to equate them to superheroes, one of them's like Spider-Man, the other one is like, I guess, lack of a better term, Batman. There's like one that's like cool and quippy and doesn't think things through, and then one is cold, calm, collected, will think things through before doing anything else.
I like them, and I like the way that this movie starts.
Yeah.
I think bringing it back to the Red Ribbon Army over and over is a continually hilarious point for Dragon Ball.
Goku vanquished the Nazis. Anyway, the Nazis are back somehow.
This times 30 for the rest of linear time until we canonize Dragon Ball Legends again and stuff gets weird. I would like to talk on the point of, let's say, canonical redemptiveness. Canonical Riju, start again. This movie has a character from Dragon Ball GT in it. It's Pan. That blows me away. The movie that was immediately prior to this one in the Dragon Ball lineage of films that there are recanonizes another character you might have heard of if you've had an internet connection since at least 2005. Broly. And I really quite enjoy the modern direction of Dragon Ball things as redemptive errors for side grade sort of lost things that were cool non-canonically. And now again do exist and just get to be really legitimately involved all over again. Superhero is an actual part of the canonical events of Dragon Ball now. You are going full on from fight against a big Piccolo at World Martial Arts Tournament to big spirit bomb attack against Majin Buu to Piccolo your weird uncle that you've never been willing to call uncle, but you both know that's a true thing, even though it isn't really a true thing, is picking up your fucking daughter from preschool.
I love it so much. There is this thing that filled me with no small amount of joy. It was so incredible. Piccolo has a smartphone, and he carries it like the most, not even like a boomer, like silent generation great-grandfather. He carries it with his index finger and his thumb, right at the very top, while craning his arm over his head, and then he, like, to press the button, extends his finger the full way, like, full extension, and presses the button hunt and peck style. It's so characterizing in a I was never meant to be old enough to touch a smartphone.
Again, back to the Spider-Verse angle I'm married to. Every bit of this film is so refined to perfect exactitude. Each thing that could just be absolutely nothing is reworked and reshaped and steel folded 1,000 times, like no way a katana was ever actually made, to be just the coolest and funniest and most delightful way it can be. There's this really extended conversation in a car at the start of this film. It's the setup for, like, why there's big robots that are just going to start attacking stuff. And it is one of the most delightful, literally straight line dudes driving forward for like 5 minutes. They do so much with the camera angles. The car starts veering off the road when a bee gets involved, and we are taken into the full absurdism of we're in HEDO's crotch now, because that's a visual engagement and can portray to you that these people are absolutely kooky strange and
For
not
like
thinking
10
completely
seconds.
straight.
For like 10 seconds, it's centered on Dr. HEDO's crotch.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah. So much really, really good humor. Like, genuinely, I laughed out loud at many points.
Usually, I like to think I'm pretty expressionless looking at films. It's likely not correct, but it's something that I've made an aspect of myself so I can pretend no one will know how I feel until I assume some powerful critical dialogue in the form of a YouTube video if I want to talk about the film very much. I couldn't help myself in this one. I couldn't help myself from getting hyped about this stuff. Yeah. I felt like an American experiencing the powerful magnet pull of witnessing an airplane land. I just want to clap. I want to applaud. I love to see that majestic sky bird come to roost. Time in the form of Piccolo having a deeply boring little house and knowing exactly the right way to break into Gohan's big and supreme house.
Yeah, I also love that, like, Piccolo's still as tsundere as ever. He has a house filled to brim with plushies, and like Videl and Gohan keep trying to think of ways to like pay back Piccolo for being like a good family member, and they're like, "We'll cook you a meal." "I don't eat." "Okay, we'll get you one of those plushies you like." "You bought them for me and you wouldn't stop buying them. I don't like them." And then he goes back to his...
this little bit later on in the film where it's, I feel like, pretty clearly unveiled that those are just plushies that Pan likes. But due to the nature of having a 3-year-old that can hurt people and jump really, like, sky high, they just need to know where to have these plushies as an emotional catchment net to make the world make a little more sense.
I think probably one of my favorite jokes in the movie was there's this point where Gohan is angry at some guy. And this guy is scared of Gohan and he's trying to run away. And as Gohan gets angrier, the ground from under him caves in, and the guy trips and falls over, and he starts crawling away, and it caves in more, and he slides back to Gohan. And this keeps going on for like 5 or 6 times, but it's still so funny because every time he's like more shocked and trying to grasp desperately at getting away from him.
We love the core of this film. I love that it's a family comedy film.
Yeah.
I love taking like big action franchises that have been to extraordinarily bleak places. Picture again of Super Boo killing all of Earth in like 5 seconds. And they just have a little genre piece that's just kind of ultimately not much, but sweet.
Yeah.
It's not always like that. How about the next flowchart item?
What we don't like about Dragon Ball. Okay, once again, my head is resting firmly on a pike here. I'm not a big Goku fan. I think Goku, at least within the story of Zed, kind of had his place, had his time. He is not exactly washed up, but he isn't the protagonist, despite the name literally being Kakarot. You barely ever play as Goku in that, and I have to say, I think it develops a story better for it. It is a passing of a torch, per se, of the hero of Dragon Ball siring and then setting off on the journey the next hero, Gohan. And I think I barely ever hear anything about Gohan in like media in general. It's always Goku this, Goku that, and I get that Goku was the first one and he's probably a lot of people's favorites. But I didn't find a whole lot of reason to like Goku more than Gohan.
I have a historical note.
Yeah.
It's strange. There's repetitious parts of Dragon Ball. You're certainly aware of this. You noticed by the end of Kakarot as a condensed to less than 356 episodes version of Dragon Ball Z. Boy Krillin sure does explode against every villain, and it makes Goku so mad that he gets longer and more yellow hair.
Yeah.
And then doesn't kill the villain. But Gohan's growth is in large part repetitious of Goku's growth across the course of Dragon Ball up to Z.
Yeah.
There's an emotive angle there because we're with Goku the whole way around. He's our guy, like the sports term.
Yeah.
Home team, kind of. We've seen Goku go from literally learning the Kamehameha to having an entire extended familial structure. And I get that it's easy to buy into him that he's our boy. He fights so hard for his friends and to protect things, and he's really disincentivized to murder, which I found morally compelling when I was 7. But I've known him since I was 7. And we've been seeing him since he was 7. And now let's do some math around the amount of time he's been dead and brought back. I think he might be chronologically crawling up on 35?
It's a real Jean Grey situation. Except Jean Grey recently was brought back at age 16. Oh no, wait, you said in Super he like becomes a child again. Okay, never mind then. GT, okay.
In Super, just white noise.
Okay.
it's just bad. It's all right. That's GT.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, no, that illustrates it better to me. I get that, the character development alongside you. I get that. But here's something I find less explainable. The like insane amount of transformations that every what, which, and how needs to go through. The like, I don't know how many levels of Super Saiyan there are. I think there are 4. There could be more. There's also Super Saiyan God. There's Ultra Instinct. There's Kaioken, back for whatever that was worth a long time ago. There's a lot of them. I don't know how many there are.
The only one worth respecting is Super Saiyan 100. Thank you.
Okay, there are 100 Super Saiyans.
No. No, that one's fake. I'm sorry. I just wanted an excuse to put the Super Saiyan 100 image in the video.
Okay.
It's really one of the worst Phantom products of all time. You'll see in the final edit.
But I gotta say, the transformations, as somebody who has not really dipped their toes too far into the Dragon Ball pool, the transformations are the thing I find hardest to get my head around, as if everybody just powers up ad infinitum, where are the stakes? And I get, they need to feel those feelings to get powered up, but it kind of loses me when, like, at the end of Cell Saga, Gohan is supposed to be full potential unlocked, and he can't reach Super Saiyan 3, meanwhile Goku has already mastered Super Saiyan 3.
He has mastered Super Saiyan 3, it's just that it's a bad transformation that hurts you and sucks, which I think is continually hilarious. There really is an absolute smorgasbord of Super Saiyan transformations here. We're going to have slow scroll across the screen, and I want you to pay attention in lockstep to each of these getting stupider as we go. How many transformations there are. You might be seeing Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Blue now.
What?
They're
Yikes.
pretty stupid, which brings me to pretty definitively the part of this film I was challenged to like. I'm not going to say I disliked, but I am definitely going to call the Goku lip service middle of the film, which is Goku and his bestie Vegetal resting on not King Kai's planet to hang out with the new god things that have adopted them to make them stronger and more ridiculous, and see the repercussions of the Broly film to actualization and build up for the next silly 400 episode long TV show that won't be very good. And we won't spend too long here because I think it's exhausting for you and me both for me to go, and there are some things that are bad without us being able to fix those things that are bad. Rather just we must observe, endure, and survive.
I acknowledge the badness.
I see. It's bad. Me as a detective. And Goku and Vegeta get set up for a fight in this part because, of course, they do. It's what they do. They'll be doing it since the start of time. They'll be doing it until the end of time or until they get really old through DB Legends lore, run off to a faraway universe and people only see a star exploding and don't know what happened to them. DB Legends is a bad game. But this part of the movie, it's just two old men punching each other while wind whooshing sound effects play. And it's lame. It's lame and slow and repetitious.
I gotta say, I honestly really like how lame it is.
Deeply compelled by it, tell us.
It compels me in a way much like I imagine a lot of this is speaking to a community at large. I imagine this is because they're told they can't use any of their energy attacks and they can't use any transformations. And I think I said to June, what is this, the first time they've ever fought with that rule set? Anywho,
True.
it's just them duking it out, teleporting, blocking. It's like a really footsie-esque fighting game match.
They get stuck in Street Fighter for a couple of minutes while DB FIGHTERZ or one of the newer, better Guilty Gear continues to explode on Earth.
Yeah, and I found it incredibly compelling this is it. This is the rawest, this is the most rawest and practical fight they're having. It's just them, no bonus power, no transformation that has been thrust upon them. And it's wet meat slapping against each other. It is, as far as I can tell, a perfect analog for how this is the epitome of Goku. It is, sure, bettering your combat and whatever, but that's just the be-all end-all, the combat. Meanwhile, Gohan is living his life, having a job, supporting his wife and child, and he goes and he fights because the world depends on it, because his family depends on it.
Goku's not dead at this point in the timeline. He's been alive since the Boo stuff, as you know.
Oh, I just assumed he died somewhere in the middle of that. I didn't realize he had been consecutively living since the Boo stuff.
Yeah, Goku's been holding on all the way through the Boo stuff. There hasn't been an interruption to his existence since then, since Elder Supreme Kai got him back in the fight to the detriment of Dragon Ball as an ongoing series.
But he, loves dying.
He does love dying. It's just that everything in Super that Goku faces is so goddamn repetitious and boring and silly that not even killing Goku would make it more interesting. Here's an image of Golden Frieza. You can guess why.
Yeah, last thing I wanted to say are things we don't like. The, like, visual migraine of all these effects happening at once, and maybe this is just a video game thing, maybe this isn't in the actual anime, but like when people are doing a whole lot of laser fights and it just gets so difficult to focus on whatever's going on that it feels like it's just a light show at a rave. It doesn't feel like you're watching anything congruent with a story.
Super is really bad about that.
Okay.
I'm sorry to everybody who has some fondness for Super. One, I think you're insane. Two, I just think Super is bread with butter stretched far too thin over it. Super makes me forget the grass of the Shire. Dragon Ball Super is like Mount Doom to me, is what I'm going for here. It's as near to hell as I will ever have to know to get back to somewhere good after struggling through all the horribleness, after living through interesting times that eventually lead us back to Dragon Ball Super, which I'm going to go ahead and say so we can be somewhere nice again, is a film about political de-radicalization.
I love it so much.
After you started talking about this as we were watching the film,
Yeah.
I'll be able to provide historical context and, like, well, tidbits about what Dragon Ball is and how it's evolved over Akira Toriyama's, like, career. Tell us all you have to say.
I don't know too much about the internet community of Dragon Ball, but given the state of the internet, I can assume that at least a minor portion has, you know, bitten the radicalization bullet, to say. And Dr. HEDO, as I explained, joins the Red Ribbon Army because he's sweet-talked into them giving him a reason to do the things he likes. And there's a point at the end where they're like, you didn't know we were good guys. You got some bad information and you acted on it. And Dr. HEDO doesn't take the easy way out. He says, I knew on a level that they were the bad guys, but it was... They were giving me everything I wanted and I thought I could. I can't remember the exact words, but he was basically along the lines of going, I wanted to use them and I kind of fell into their honey trap, as it were. And I said, no, and he apologizes for falling into it. And then Piccolo says, well, you weren't the good guys, but you certainly weren't the worst of the bad guys. It just, much like Piccolo before him, it paints the image of this person who was tantamount to taking over the world, and when given the chance, he steps down and asks for mercy and owns up to what he did. He decides look to tomorrow with a brighter vision than the way he left today. And I think that is truly admirable, and it struck to me as though a letter to the fans that today's radicalization isn't the way to go.
It's really important and wonderful that Dragon Ball at this ludicrously late of media stage of, like, the series being done like 4 times over comes back swinging with this. Dragon Ball is not without sin. It is, and I hope this isn't the first time you're hearing this, profoundly unfortunate that the apex of a species is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Ubermensch who punches so good. It is exceptionally unfortunate that Mr. Popo looks like that, and that Mr. Popo exists as a subservient thing to Kami's Lookout.
There's a part in... There's a lot of flashbacks to earlier Dragon Ball anime within the movie. There's a part where they're doing a recap of the Red Ribbon Army, and there is a guy who looks quite similar to Mr. Popo in all the bad ways. I don't know how big of a part he played in Dragon Ball original, but he
Not
does
one that's brought him back in the modern day.
But he does make it into the movie.
Which I admire. Dragon Ball superhero doesn't want to look away from the repercussions of Dragon Ball, which I will go ahead and say that I do find heroic on a metatextual level that I will also say us into movies as art. And I'll make a big splash art that we put on screen here for this.
Yeah.
Cocaine Bear does not win movies as art. This will be a very rare classification that we put in these videos. But superhero talks an honest truth about where we've gone awry, how it was legitimately bad, and it's sorry. That's real. That's full on. I would like that no matter the movie it was in. I do like that it's also in this incredibly good action family comedy, vivid romp fest that we are watching.
Yeah. I would like to spoil something for you, dear viewer.
Besides the rest of the movie that we have already assuredly spoiled.
Yeah. The final big laser attack. To go to how much this is a family movie, a movie about family. The final laser attack after this big transformation where Piccolo is seemingly given his life to hold off the big bad in enough time for Gohan to do his thing. He fires off not a Kamehameha, not any of his previous things, but he fires off a special beam cannon, which is Piccolo's thing.
It's the thing that brought Piccolo to the forefront of Gohan's life. It's the thing that pushed the most emotionally interesting angles of Dragon Ball to emerge. That Goku can die, that your heroes can die, and villains can become heroes then, because this convalent, bizarre evolution is possible over time, and over chances being given. And it answers to that with a cool fucking beam attack. And I'll dictate this a little more to the audience because I think this is essential. It is a huge beam attack with Piccolo holding back the most perfect manifestation of Gohan's trauma, making it weak and vulnerable to Gohan. And Gohan recalls each and everything that Piccolo has given him. Emotionally, physically, as a trainer, as an uncle, as the guy that babysits his actual child every goddamn day. And uses Piccolo's goddamn attack that no one else has ever used.
It's the kind of thing that makes you just smile and feel warm. And I understand as doing this in a critic kind of way I should use more real terms, but fuck that. Superheroes are about emotions. Dragon Ball's about emotions, and it just makes me feel so happy.
It is really assuredly and lasting wonderful. It feels like the kind of thing that didn't happen to emerge in recent times with very unfortunate political events and a world that's getting a bit scarier. It feels like the kind of conclusion that was plotted since Piccolo shot his first special beam cannon. But as writing goes, you uncover more yourself and you uncover more the way people care about the thing that you made. Where you went awry, and if you are brilliant and brave, where you can set it right again, as right as it goes again. And then eventually you go from being literally Demon King Piccolo to Uncle Piccolo, who is huge and orange now and giving his all to give you a shot, which rocks. And I think helps us segue to maybe our last point on the flowchart.
Yep.
Thoughts on Dragon Ball going forward?
I think anything that can produce something of this quality that is look, for all writing's sake, it looks very, very intended. It looks like this is something they meant to do. And I'm willing to see that head on, because I believe in looking for the good of things, and this makes me very hopeful going into other such Dragon Ball media. And I get that it's probably not all going to be this good. This is fairly new, and there's been a lot of stuff between where I left off, which is Majin Buu coming back from the dead, and everybody's like shocked, and then they're like, but he's good now, and everybody's like, yay! So I imagine there is a lot of in that gap that isn't great, but I'm willing to look through it and give it my best shot. But even going forward on from this, I think this sets up some nice stuff. It feels like a really good point to be, just a good point to exist, and I think if they're going to continue it from here, it's going to take a lot to make it bad from here, I think.
I would like to iterate before I continue my thoughts and say the things I want to say. Dragon Ball Superhero made me feel like I was seeing the poster again. Mentioned at the start of this video that is running much longer than we thought, and we thank you for listening in for this long. If you've listened to us this long, please subscribe. Hit the bell. But the movie made me feel like I was seeing the poster again. I was falling in love with the Z Fighters again. I was discovering the brilliant emotional and physical strengths of these absolute freakazoids. I was seeing them through an absurd battle against something that seems impossibly bad, and they were making it go against all odds. They were finding a way to survive and thrive through it. First Dragon Ball film I ever saw was Dead Zone, which was also the first Dragon Ball film, so that was a good one to start at. Boy, Piccolo sure does get attacked on top of a rock at the start of a lot of these Dragon Ball movies, including that one. And I'm pretty sure the first Cooler. It happens again in Superhero. It conveys to me then that they're giving it a serious try here. There's some serious reverence in Dragon Ball nowadays to Dragon Ball. Broly is being recanonized with a significantly more sensitively told story. Pan is being given a shake in a Dragon Ball media touchstone that isn't bogged down by the absolutely brain-dead executive editorial decision that, oh, Goku should look like a kid again. Kids like kids. Dragon Ball's been bad before, folks. Dragon Ball's going to be bad again. It's going to be very bad again. There will be another one of those episodes where Vegeta needs to suck on a pacifier for like 48 consecutive minutes lest his soul explode. That happens in Super, by the way. Put a picture there, not a joke. But I'm at a point where I'd like to try believing in it. Where I want to believe in the Z Fighters as superheroes. Bastions of some sort of impossible growth against adversity, metatextual and textual. And there's a way for things to be dope and cool again. Via reverence to the source material, I would also like to say, boy, Beast Gohan sure is Super Saiyan 5, huh? From the fan community. We're putting another bad Super Saiyan transformation here. I cannot iterate enough. Gray hair, red eyes. How did this happen?
Okay, so that is what it's called? Beast form?
Gohan. Yes, that is Beast Gohan.
Okay.
I looked it up after the fact.
They don't actually say it in the film, which...
For the, maybe minute and 30 seconds that Beast Gohan, this dope new action figure bait, is in the movie.
I would also... I'm sorry to bring it back to something I had previously said, but I just remembered the reason why I thought that Goku and Vegeta fight was the, sheer epitome of them as how they are and how I see them. Because after they have fought, after they have lost consciousness, how I'd like to spoil this as well. Vegeta beats Goku.
Yeah, let's sink in and then hear the punchline.
And so then Vegeta collapses because he is so exhausted. And Broly, who is also there, and a guy named Lemo, who is also there, are crying because of this beautiful, beautiful combat that they have witnessed. And there's 3 other people, and they're all literally asleep because they don't care.
They've just seen too much of those two guys fighting. What does it all mean?
And I don't mean to go, I don't care in that horrific way, but I get that there's this dichotomy between people who are over Goku and his conflict and people who have this sheer reverence to him. And I like that this final bit, they understand this dichotomy and they put it forward, that they do get it.
I will put forward after this dialogue what I will shamelessly take from our best friend, Tim Robinson. Nope, that's the wrong guy. Tim Rogers. Shout out to I Think You Should Leave by Tim Robinson. That's really funny. It's beyond the scope of this video. I'm referring to Action Button Reviews' Tim Rogers and his bottom line. Dragon Ball superhero loves you and is sorry. And I think that matters. Thank you for listening in.
Thank
Glad
you.
I managed to face the bottom line. That's the movie.
Thank you for listening to our film review that's 4 times the length of the last one.
Cocaine Bear sucked. This one was